Okay, this is something I've got to just tackle head on. I've heard this from a ton of people. Namely, I've heard Tommy Sotomayor tackle it and a forum post on topics.com. And this is something that I always hear people say. Black people and, liberal white people whose greatest, uh, nirvana paradise dream to, espouse their white guilt is some future that is racially ambiguous, not white, so they don't have to feel guilty about slavery, which they shouldn't feel guilty about anyway. And it's this whole, well, white people are going extinct thing. Because here's the thing. If white people are going extinct, then black people should be going extinct at like almost 5% of the, almost 5 times the rate. Because here's the thing. As much as black people try to like avoid the argument of welfare and all that by saying there's more white women on welfare than black women, they don't bring up the fact that there's almost 5 times the amount of white people than black people. So there's more white people in general. A heck of a lot more. For the so-called browning of America, they're still definitely the majority. And blacks are a very low 13% of the population. And this is why. And this is why they're 13% of the population for decades now. And it's also why, if whites are going extinct, blacks definitely are. Blacks kill more blacks than any other group. Blacks kill more non-blacks than any other group as well. But blacks kill their own more than any other group, including the so-called racist white man. Blacks commit more abortions, despite the fact that abortion as a right was something created by white feminism. Here's the thing. A lot of the white liberal women that you see as housewives, in gated communities, you don't see them talking about the virtues of abortion. The only ones you see saying stuff like that are, ones that look liberal. The tatted up, dyke-looking women. The ones you can tell have no morals. The ones that are probably the farthest from God you could get. The Sodom and Gomorrah type people. And they're usually espousing the virtues of homosexuality and a whole bunch of other stuff. Weed, getting drunk every weekend, all that crap. But the majority of the liberal white women don't espouse the virtues of abortion and feminism, and that was created for them. Yet black women took it hook, line, and sinker, and now the #1 killer of black children is black women through abortion. And yet they claim to be queens of the earth. Black men claim to be kings of the earth and the original man, and the white man is, European barbarian. But despite that, the black man kills more of his own, not only than anyone else kills of black people, but more so than anyone else kills their own. They kill more other black people than white people kill other white people. So despite being kings of the earth, they're constantly killing each other, so much for black pride. The fact that we take terrible care of ourselves with, diabetes, cholesterol, high blood pressure, because we still eat terrible slave era food, especially in the South, hog maws and chitlins. And this ties into your women, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. With other diseases like AIDS, it's part of the reason why you have so many out-of-wedlock kids, because you are sexually immature. More so than any other group of men, the men think screwing women equates them with masculinity and manhood. The women think being a whore equates them with being a real woman. They think having a child before the age of 18 is a sign that they've grown up and made it. And it's like I said, when tied in with the women, well, guess what? The women are raised with no men, so they seek sorry men that won't be there for them. The men are raised by whores, so they think a whore is worth having. And the cycle continues. Also, speaking of the women, with the whole being fat and all that, despite them claiming to be divas, and I'm not saying this to be harsh, but despite them claiming to be divas, first off, they do more so than any other group of women to look like white women. Well, non-black women, but they try to look specifically like white women with the straightened Farrah Fawcett honey blonde weaves with the rhinoplasties, the perm and all that stuff. Why would any man want a cheap knockoff though? If he wanted a white woman, he'd get a white woman. But then again, some of you do need that extra femininity because compared to not just white women but every other group of women, you do look more masculine because you have more testosterone than any other group of women. But you're also the fattest group of women in a nation known for being fat. And to be fair, most black men will put up with that, but the ones that are getting somewhere probably won't. And going back to the abortion thing, you think prenatal care, and stop listening to the media trying to give this image that the majority of blacks are middle class like whites are. They're not. The majority of blacks are not Huxtables. They do not live in the suburbs. The majority of blacks are the folk you see on movies like Friday and Next Friday and all that. That's the majority of blacks. Let's just deal with it. And the majority of those women in those groups, do you see them doing prenatal care? Do you see them going to Lamaze classes? No, you don't. Because what do most white women have when they're at Lamaze classes? A husband. This lack of prenatal care also leads to a lot of infant mortality. It's besides the obvious abortion. Besides the fact that the mother ate terribly while she was pregnant, smoked, still drank, gave the child AIDS because that's how she got pregnant. She was a hoe and claimed to be a Christian. And also because of this, because the majority of your women are like this, and especially because the majority of your men are like this, and especially because the majority of your women are like this, the ones that get somewhere, now they have options, and they're going to look outside, because that whole multiculturalism thing that your liberal slave masters talk about, they're going to accept that. They're going to look at every other group of people, especially the men, because 20% of their marriages are interracial. Yet only 9% of the women that actually get married of that group, the marriages are interracial. But 20% of the men's are. The men's. Well, that is accurate, because it's possessive. Yeah, the men's. The men's marriages, 20% of them are interracial. They have those options now, namely because they don't act like the majority of their group that they come from. So now they have more access to those white women, without them being low-class white, without them being wiggers, without them being trailer trash, without them being rebelling against daddy. They have more access to those Asian women. They have more access to those Arab and Indian women. They were the same ones that ruled their communities with businesses and the hair and weave shops and all that. And so what do you get from that? A ton of half-breed kids who, if they follow in their parents' footsteps, will probably have another spouse from a different race. And eventually that black blood will be diluted. So black people, if whites are going extinct, trust me, you'll beat them to the finish line. Just like you do with every other dysfunction. Trust me, you aren't some race that's just saved from being eroded because you're eroding yourselves. You're destroying yourselves because the ones that succeed, most of the time, they leave you behind. And honestly, I don't even blame them.